Cool. Let's talk Devon Witherspoon, cornerback, Illinois. Witherspoon, by the way, is the favorite to be the first cornerback taken. He's minus 200 in the marketplace. Christian Gonzalez of Oregon is second at plus 150. So again, just you have to lay $200 to win 100 if you think Witherspoon's the top corner. Witherspoon actually right now is the favorite to go as the sixth pick at minus 110. That is Detroit's pick for now. And Christian Gonzalez at plus 350. Then Gonzalez is also the favorite to be the seventh pick, which again right now is the property of the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's kind of right around where the market might see these guys. Grinding the mocks sees both guys kind of as top 10 picks per all the mocks. In fact, right now, Christian Gonzalez has been considered a little bit higher in the mocks than Devon Witherspoon just by a little bit. Joey Porter, 16th. Deonte Banks, Brian Branch, two guys we're going to talk about right around that 24 mark. So we do kind of have 5 DBs, corners guy, right now who are considered, the market is about 4.5. Kelee Ringo of Georgia, right around that first round pick mark. So as we talk about Devon Witherspoon, again, 5'11", 181, 31.25 inch arms, no testing at the combine. This is a player who is incredibly seasoned, right? To over 2,000 career snaps and over 700 career snaps last year. Teams throwing his way were just not unsuccessful. 14 pass breakups, 3 interceptions throwing his way last year in 62 attempts. It was awful throwing his way. And so he got a lot of publicity for what was a very productive season. Thomas, what were you seeing on film with Devon Witherspoon?
Yeah, and let's first start by saying I like this draft class of corners. To me, it's a nice crop, and it's exciting to look at them all because I think whether you're at the beginning of the draft or whether you're at the back end of the first round, you're going to find some really, I think, adept talent. And that makes me excited because I'm a big believer in drafting corners. I think they're so important to find that corner in the first and second round. Of course, you can find some later for sure. Depends on your scheme and system. I mean, we saw Richard Sherman. Was he a fifth rounder way back in the day?
Yep.
Unfortunately, in Atlanta, we decided we're going to get who we were modeling after him in the second round, and we ended up missing on him at one time. There are big guys that can go in the second and third round. There are big guys that can go in the first round. Let's bring it over to D. Witherspoon. Really, really like this kid. I think this kid is an excellent pure athlete. Like you said, 5'11", not the biggest, not the smallest. It's kind of a nice, a good size. He's not the taller ones that you guys are looking at. Oftentimes when you're looking at some of these guys like A.J. Terrell or even Joey Porter later on that we'll be talking about here in this year's draft. Very good athlete, explosive, feisty. I love this kid's toughness. I love how he has such an awareness of where the ball is, ball skills, ability. He's going to jam his hand in there in any way he needs to get to the ball and to make the play. Again, alert, quick twitch, hip flip. He's smooth in transition in his own way, and he's very stop-start explosive, which I love. He comes up. When I say feisty, he's not only feisty in coverage, but when he needs to get up there and make the play, he's a wrap-up guy. I like the way that he supports the run for a guy who's 180 pounds. He's throwing himself around there without being stupid about it. We often say, remember, when we are evaluating corners, when you're evaluating corners, you rising stars in the analytics, when you're talking to your head coaches, man, it's all about making sure that they know whether this guy's an outside guy or an inside guy or an outside/inside guy. He is an outside/inside guy. He has the ability and the stop-start ability, I think, to play inside. You play him on the outside, man, I think you're gonna have a really star-studded corner here for years to come. As long as he's in the right system, who's going to work with him and understand that he's not a 6'2" guy, right? Be smart with how you're utilizing him.
Yeah. By the way, Thomas's last draft pick as the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons was A.J. Terrell, a corner who did he earn All-Pro in 2021?
Yeah, he did. I believe he did. I mean, you guys, yeah. all your PFF guys lauded him well. So in one sitting, I'm like, PFF, okay, thank you, but that's not where we're gauging our. But then when you get the total lauding of it and the ranking of it, you like it, right?
It sort of reminds me of when we used to deal with agents, right? Like, only give me the good data. But but he, again, I look at this. A couple only questions I have are, when you look at competition, the Big Ten's not like it's a Power 5 school. But when I look at the perimeters, I got to be a little careful because, it's not quite, a guy like Ty Freifogel, wide receiver for Indiana, is getting a ton of targets. That's not a guy who's going to make it in the NFL. Like you feel, unless you're playing Ohio State, you're not getting that many NFL caliber wide receivers coming your way. But be that as it may, again, only 22 of 62 attempts completed into his coverage, 14 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. He's getting his hands on the ball. So I'm willing to overlook a little bit of what I consider to be competition issues.
Are you worried about, okay, so this is a really interesting point. I used to stress to our scouts all the time, and one of the things that I've said to you over the months here, you have to evaluate exactly what you're saying, who their opponent is, whether that's a pass rusher, a pass protector, whether it's a linebacker, whatever. When you look, yes, granted, you have to look at who they're running the routes against, or defending against, and who's running routes against them. However, vital for a scout and a scout's eye to be able to project and say, take that person out of it, look at who he's covering, yes, but also watch everything to do with how that player, again, is planting, coming out of his plant, how he's staying in phase, the fluidity of movement, his burst. He's a 4.42 coming off of a hamstring. One of the reasons that he didn't run at the combine, of course, that was his school at Illinois, right? He ended up running that. I mean, he's got good speed. Not saying, again, he's a burner, far from that, but he's got good speed for an NFL corner. And I think when you watch him and you watch his positives as far as his movement and all of what I was just describing, I think that's part of how you have to project, because you're not going to turn down the opportunity to have a guy like this and just judge him off of the fact that he wasn't going against the best talent. Now, if this kid's coming out, if he's coming out of Morehouse or I don't know, Georgia
Tech.
Yeah, so it's maybe a little different that way. He's still coming out of big time school, and he's a prime athlete.
Yeah, and as you said, physicality is important. He did have like a 13.5 missed tackle rate, but I think that's part, like, statistically, that's kind of the Derek Jeter thing, where Adam Everett, Derek Jeter, where like Adam Everett gets to more balls, but he might boot a few, whereas Jeter's too slow to get to the ball, so he never has any errors. I do think missed tackles can be a little bit misleading, where if you actually try to go mix it up as a corner, you're going to have more missed tackles, and sometimes those missed tackles can be positive too. If you make a guy cut back into the middle of the field towards your defense and stuff. So it's something that I wrote down, but I'm not necessarily all that concerned about. I like the inside outside flexibility too, to your point, because again, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl with their best defender besides Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, on the sideline for the whole AFC title game, because their number one pick, Trent McDuffie, could play inside. I don't think you want to go into an NFL game, and I think, Thomas, at the end of your Falcons career, this was always something that hurt you guys. Like, you don't want to go into a game with only one guy that can play slot that well, right? So even having a starting guy on the outside that can play inside if there's an injury is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, hopefully you're not putting this kid inside, of course, because you need him out on the outside. I get that. Let's go back to a really important topic. You're exactly right. The miss rate, you really have to dig in. And as a general manager, we would run every missed tackle, of course, and we would look at the scenarios and try to decide why, in fact, he did it, and truly factor in, all right, this was a complete sort of lame miss, flying around, losing body control, all that stuff, or this was an full-on, heavy-ass aggressiveness move that we'll take that, right? We want to make sure that we have the corners that are aggressive, and he is very aggressive and, again, feisty with what he does. Why he's missing, we need to do more work on that. I haven't done enough on that. What I would say about this as well, I had so many of these conversations with both Mike Smith and Dan Quinn. What are we truly looking for? Because let me tell you something. If A.J. Terrell had a few misses here and there, would we rather go for A.J. Terrell, who has the ability to knock balls down, he has the ability to come up and do whatever he does or stay in phase, but may miss on some of the tackles, versus, do you want a tackler or do you want a cover guy? Categorically, you want a cover guy. Of course, you don't want some guy, again, just
Deion Sanders was one of the wimpiest tacklers in the history of the NFL, and you'd have him on your team no matter any day of the week, right?
Look,
like they were
exactly. And I used to have this conversation with some of the coaches when we were getting down to really cutting time, I would say they'd be like, this guy, he misses 5 tackles, and I don't like how he did that. And look at that. I'd say, look, here's the deal. We are not drafting a linebacker here. Yes, we want a guy that you guys can continue to work with on just solid, sound tackling. I don't need a guy that's going to come up and just rock someone under the chin. That's days of old anyway, right? I love it, but you need a cover guy first. And if you're going to bypass that just to get a support guy, that support guy is going to normally be an inside guy. Anyway, I just think it's very important to keep it in perspective on the tackle side of things. Unless
Yeah,
it's
for sure. And it's your job. I mean, ultimately, if you're making a tackle as a defensive back, usually something has gone wrong, right? Like, yeah, that's not always the case, but like it's like soccer, right? Like it's why I get a little nervous quoting coverage statistics, because in some ways, when the ball comes your way, you've already at least given the offense some daylight in most cases. So that's not great. Now, for Witherspoon to only let them complete a third of the passes, that's pretty good. But you don't, like, as a corner, this is the truest weak link system. You do not want to notice the player all that much throughout the game. And that, again, is partially due to the fact that you need a cover guy who the offense is going to look away from, right? Like we showed at PFF a few years ago that like every single like quarter of a second that the quarterback has to pat the ball, obviously pressure rates go up that much, offenses get that much less efficient. And that's really what you want. Like it always feeds into your pass rusher. If you're a team like Atlanta, for example, who is looking for edge players, and those edge players come off the board too quickly, a corner is going to help weaker edge players get to the passer because they're going to be able to make the quarterback hold the ball, incrementally long.